Hey Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today to share with you this layout that I created using a flavor of the month collection from my June The Scraproom kits. So I am using Simple Stories and the collection is called Travel Notes. You get 3 pattern papers, 2 pieces of cardstock, and some embellishments. And so that sticker sheet that you see behind the cream cardstock that I'm working with is the embellishment that comes with that. And then I am also working with some die cuts that are in the embellishment add-on. So I've decided to use that travelogue and just cut off the top of it and use that as the header of my layout. And then I'm going to have a corresponding size in those red polka dots at the bottom there. And I'm measuring the size so that they're slightly larger than the photos. And then I am going to trim the travelogue corresponding up the top to fit and be the same length. And the interesting thing to me is, as I was working on this, that's what I was checking, is the length seemed to be just a little bit longer than the red, but it's an illusion because you have the light color and the dark color. So to fix that, I just trimmed up just 1 row of the dots, and you see when you put that up above, it ties it together and it makes that travelogue part look the same length, even though it actually is the same length as what the footer down below. So I'm just using my ruler to line everything up so that it all has the same beginning and end, and there's nothing that's ski-wampus. The type A highlighted, bolded, underlined personality in me can't handle that. So I'm just going to commit to those headers and footers there. I have 2 pictures that are square that I've printed side by side with a small white border in between. Those of you who follow my scrapping and have watched my videos previously know that that is unusual for me. I typically like to print them and then overlap them just a little bit with one slightly higher than the other if I'm using 2 photos. I went with this because there's enough contrast between the right hand side photo and the left hand side photo that I was okay printing them side by side and giving that rectangular feel. In the type of grid that I've created in the layout, I like this look better. It adds to the symmetry of the grid and moves your eye from the top of the page down to the bottom. So what I'm doing now is using some of the scraps and using some of the pattern papers. I am just using my Tim Holtz punch. It's not actually a circle punch. It's a circle punch with the variegated edges to it. I'm sure it has a name, but I'm not sure what the name of that is. So I am cutting out circles that are roughly the same size as those circles that you see in that sticker sheet behind my layout there. I was originally inspired by all of those circles in the sticker sheet and thought that I would use many, many more of them. In fact, that had been the intent, to use the arrows and the sort of what look like paint splotches in the sticker sheet. However, I punched out a lot of circles and I liked the way that the circles tied the layout together because the colors are the same colors. You can see I use a lot of the red and that same travelogue sheet, the grid from that. Tie it all together with just a few other elements around it to help tie everything together. And I do have one element. You can see that center element there, and it says Discover. And I know that that's bigger. That is intentionally bigger, and that is the only one that's bigger because it is a center element and it is between the 2 pictures. So in my mind, it created a bit of a visual illusion along with that red strip up the top that drew your eye to the pictures because it was slightly bigger. It's not glaringly obvious, but it's subtle enough that it's sort of an illusion there. So I knew I wanted the title for this layout to be Team Travel Adventure. So I'm going to use Adventure from the sticker sheet and then get some Simple Stories stickers from the Snap collection that will finish off Team Travel. I have fast forwarded through this because literally all I'm doing is using Scotch double-sided foam adhesive to pop Adventure in there. So these are the stickers that I have from Simple Stories, and I knew I wanted to create the title using these because these stickers, all of the Simple Stories colors coordinate across collections, which I really love. And so I knew that I was going to find a color that coordinated with what I had here in order to be able to finish off that title. So I went with the green because there isn't a lot of green in the remainder of the layout, but I do have a few green elements. And so by having that green, I was able to tie everything in. I ran out of T's, and so I knew if I used an L and then cut off just a little bit going across, I was able to recreate a T. I will frequently do that. You can turn a P into an R. You know the drill with all of that. So I am using my Heidi Swapp ruler. It's a centerline ruler. Ages and ages ago, Heidi Swapp had a Love Your Handwriting book, and this centerline ruler was perfect that came with it. I don't know that you can find that book anymore and therefore find the centerline ruler, but I do know that the We Are Memory Keepers, if you get the thicker placement guide, I showed that I was able to find in a Tuesday morning haul recently. They do have a centerline ruler in that as well, and the cool thing about those rulers is that they're both straight and crooked, so you can do well, not crooked, but curvy, wavy, and so you can do a bunch of different things with the centerline, which is neat there. And so I'm just placing them on the page, doing the Suzanna title shuffle, because even though I use the centerline ruler, nothing goes on straight for me. And then peeling off the backing of each of those little pieces of adhesive, and then sticking that down and committing to the title there. The story behind these pictures is my son and I have twice traveled on a swim team trip from Florida to Virginia, and each time we have had to travel through Atlanta. We have had lovely travel adventures. The first time we traveled through Atlanta was on our way down to Florida, and we ended up spending our first overnight ever in an airport, for my son, and his first all-nighter. And then this particular trip, we again had bad weather in Atlanta and ended up being delayed, which is always interesting when you're traveling with 25, maybe 26 teenagers who have had a very, very long weekend swimming prelims and finals. So we were all getting a little bit punchy. We held it together, but it was getting close. So that's what this page is about. One is a Snapchat picture of himself on the right-hand side, and then the photo on the left is one of him sitting on the floor, about ready to throttle anybody else who had a conversation with him because he was just done. So he was trying to just mind his own business and keep to himself. So I just am sort of cleaning out the placement of these things, trying to keep green not close to green, trying to keep those red circles so that they weren't in the same line, and then dispersing some of the die cuts that came with the add-on kit in there as well. So once I've committed to the placement of all of those things, I am just going to use my Prima glue pen and glue all of that down. I had this airplane here that I really wanted to use. I had actually really wanted to use the cloud behind it, but the cloud is a cream color, which is the same color as the airplane, and it was hard to see that the cloud was there. Also, the cloud did not keep with the circular theme that I wanted for all of these elements, and so I abandoned the cloud. So I have committed to this. I'm going to have 3 popped elements: this locator that I have here, the airplane, and then adventure. And by having the 3 of them popped, it adds some visual interest, as well as kind of draws that visual triangle, as well as those red circles that are there create a bit of a visual triangle as well. So I'm going to just fast forward through this because literally all I'm doing, I've committed to the placement of these things. I'm just using my Prima glue pen and gluing everything down. It's really as simple as that. I had toyed with the idea of stitching through each of the rows and then through each of the columns, just again for a little bit more interest. It sort of also tied that travelogue paper into the layout by keeping with that grid, but I abandoned that idea because I had already committed. I'd put the picture down and I didn't want to pull the picture up to sew those grids in. But it's just a suggestion for you for future layouts should you decide to do something like that. So I just used some of the words, phrases that are in the sticker sheet to add a little bit more visual interest to the page, as well as finding words that were relevant to the storytelling. I am going to journal on this page, but I end up doing that off camera, and the journaling will go up on the lines underneath Travelog up there. So this is a layout created using some Scraproom, my June Scraproom kit from the Flavor of the Month kit. If you have any questions about the kits, please don't hesitate to ask them in the box down below, and I will be sure to get back to you. Enjoy the close-ups. Thanks for stopping in today. I hope you're doing well. Take care.